If you're in your early 20s and you're feeling like you're behind where you should be, this video is for you. Maybe you're lost after graduating college and have no clue what to do for work or career and just really want to make some money and move out and be independent and on your own. Or maybe you're entrepreneurial and maybe you're trying to make money online or build different businesses and you feel called to do something greater, but you just can't seem to find something that can work. And you feel like among all the people on Instagram, you're seeing flashy yachts, flashy boats, and you're feeling behind. And I feel for you. I know what it's like to feel like time is running out and that you're getting close to 30, or you're in your 20s and you should be way farther than you are. I know what that feels like and how painful that can really be. And I also know what it feels like to have absolutely no clarity of direction in life and not know where to turn and be stuck in a place where you just want to be independent and you aren't making enough money to do that, or just don't know what the next step is for you or how to even go about it. So in this video, I hope to share some hope with you, that I want to give you a new perspective on feeling behind and why it can really just be an illusion in a lot of cases. And I'm going to tell you about my story and what I've been through that has brought me to where I am now, where things are much better. And I'm going to break down the good, the bad parts, the mistakes that I made, and how I basically flunked school and ended up living in my parents' house till I was like 23, trying to make all these different things work, being in painful jobs that didn't really give me any fulfillment or meaning and tied me to one place, and how I broke out of that and how I got over feeling behind and that pain that comes with that, right? So to set the scene, all throughout college, I was following this paradigm of live it up while young. And I think that I had it drilled in me, this notion of adult life just sucks. And I think this is the common narrative that people have, at least I did, and everybody around me that I knew, that just, adult life was where you had responsibility and you had to work hard and just, climb the ranks in some hourly job or, some career, and that kind of sucks, right? And that work isn't fun, right? These beliefs were drilled into me, and that everybody's notion of youth is like, oh, you're so lucky, live it up while you can now, right? And, college years are your best years. And I mean, so I took that and I was riding with it. I had all my chips in there, right? I went through high school and I was honestly, it started there. I was just partying, drinking a ton, just making the most out of like the fun and social aspects. And I did not do well in school, guys. I did terrible. And I still ended up going to college. I got deferred for a college because I didn't have good grades. I had to go to a local place to prove that I had good grades enough to get into this college. But even that, guys, I was only going because I wanted to live it up while I was young. And that meant partying all the time. I did the whole fraternity thing. I was all into just living it up. I barely went to class. I was doing, thirsty Thursdays, Friday night, Saturday night, some Wednesday nights, Sunday, drink to cure the hangover from the weekend. Like, I was all in on living it up. And I thought that my best experiences were going to be during this period, right? Because that's just the paradigm I was given. And so I was putting off all responsibility, and I was not thinking ahead at my future because I thought that, adult life is going to suck anyway. Let me just deal with that stuff when it comes. And now there is some truth to living it up while you're young, and I'm not discounting that. But I later came to realize that the philosophies that I was following was really just the standard common way of thinking, and that there actually is more ways of life and philosophies on life and how you can actually design your life than is commonly understood. And I had just been following blindly the advice that's been passed down from generations and generations that my teachers, parents have all just been using. And, it's worth questioning, right? So this is where I started to questioning things. But I didn't realize this stuff at the time. And so by the time it came to graduation, which I barely made it through, by the way. I actually had to, take summer classes to finish the college degree. And I ended up switching to a major like halfway through school. I was like, dude, I'm not going to make it. I switched to the easiest possible thing that they had just so I can get the degree, because I thought that that degree was going to give me safety. I later found out it didn't do anything for me. Okay. And I remember that moment that I finally finished school. I was like, I felt accomplished on one hand, but on the other hand, I felt this dread, this sense of like, fuck, like this is it. Like I gotta make something work now. Like, what do I, now it's time for the real world where it's going to suck. And that was my expectations. So I was 21 at that time, and I moved back in with my parents. And guys, I still was trying to live it up as much as possible. I still was under the paradigm of, what if I lose out on this fun times that I can have? And that was causing me just to like push off everything, right? But I was at a point where I really needed money, right? So honestly, college didn't teach me any skills. And the first job that I got was just in a restaurant, the only job I knew how to work. And I did that for probably about a year until I decided, and I had an opportunity come my way where a friend was working an actual like corporate job, where you could say like a real job. Not that there's anything against restaurants. It actually helped me out a ton. And I think you can make tons of money there still. But it was time for me to want to like, find a career. This is what I thought I wanted at the time. And so a friend referred me for a job that he was working at that was hiring. And I was like, I had so much fear and limiting beliefs, but I decided to do it. And I gave it a shot, and I even asked my neighbor to help me like build my resume. I had no clue how to do this stuff, guys. And I was going on YouTube, just practicing like generic interview questions. And I honestly was really determined to get it. And it was one of the scariest things I experienced. But after literally interviewing and like it was virtual, it was on Zoom, I ended up getting the job. And this was very exciting for me. It was like, it was just my first like real job, right? And honestly, it wasn't so much money. It was close to like 50K a year. It was an hourly pay. And, I basically I was doing like, numbers stuff. Like I was literally just entering numbers all day. And I didn't really realize how much was going to change after getting into this, and how that was really the catalyst that shifted me into a different way of thinking that I'm going to tell you about. But yeah, at this point, I still was like, I was probably 22, and I felt a little better, but I was still stuck in my parents' house. I wasn't making enough to like move out and be able to like be independent on my own. And yeah, guys, like, I mean, the biggest thing about, putting off responsibility like I did is I had this constant feeling of like, I'm just behind. Like I have no direction. I don't know what I'm doing, or I don't have a vision for the future, right? And that can feel lonely. So after doing this job for a while, honestly, things got pretty dark. I started to get very bored of the routine that I was in, and the job started taking tons of energy from me, and it lacked kind of fulfillment and meaning for me, right? Like it lacked, I wasn't really seeing how anything that I was doing was contributing to anything that I actually wanted in life. And granted, I didn't even know what I wanted, but it started to spark in me this drive for something greater. I started to get these feelings of like, is this really just the path that I'm going to be on till I'm 60 and retire? It started to get me to question things. And that's why in a way I'm grateful for it. It started to make the pain really great, to where it caused me to start thinking on my own. So this is when I started to read books on spirituality, entrepreneurship, and I was in a very dark place, honestly. I was starting to get a little depressed and mundane, and I had started to, get in my head about things and just overthink and ruminate. And I had lacked motivation at this period, and I was just living in my parents' basement, and I wanted to do something different, right? So I started to read things and expand my awareness, and I wanted to figure out what the meaning of life was, and I wanted to live life and in a way where I could do something creative, cool, and not have to wait till I'm 60 to like see the world and enjoy life, right? And I'm not talking about the enjoyment of just drinking and partying. Like I had done that, and I realized it wasn't the route. It did not fulfill me, and it just put me in a place where things were harder and I was behind. But I'm grateful for it in a way, okay? I'm going to talk about it in a second. So as I started to expand my awareness, something deep inside of me started to awaken. And this is where my entire reality changed from reading this one book. And this book was called The Millionaire Fastlane by MJ DeMarco. Now, he's an amazing author. I recommend you check him out. It has everything to do with building a life of independence for yourself. But anyways, completely shifted my paradigm on life. So in the book, he talks about the script. And this is basically the notion of this common life path advice that everybody is following around you pretty much in the world today, where it's go to college, get a degree, get a job, work your way up the ranks, save X amount and put it in the stock market, retire at 60, and then enjoy life. Like, this is the path that is, when people think about, oh, how is life supposed to be lived? That's what he's talking about. He's talking about the script. And when I read that and realized, like, whoa, okay, like, this is the first time I'm seeing things being questioned, it really opened something up in me. He talked about how people who follow that path, they don't really move anywhere that is anywhere different than just average, right? There's like, it's literally, if you look deep into it, and it's a rabbit hole, but there's nobody living extraordinary lives following this type of advice. And for someone where I wanted something different, I felt an inner calling to do something greater. Like, I started to learn from reading, and this book specifically, that how can I get anything other than average if I'm just following an average path? Right. And so this is where things started to shift for me. And that was probably the biggest catalyst of my brain expanding and being like, whoa, okay, there are actually people doing cool shit in adulthood. Like, not everybody's just, working a job and then escaping on the weekends. So this is where I started to get some hope. And it was a combination of this hope and the pain from just working like whatever job I could get, which is what I was doing at the time. That together was what sparked this new change. It shattered the beliefs of adult life sucking, and it gave me a different narrative that I could follow, that, hey, it's worth putting my youth toward building a future that I want to enjoy, moving toward work that fulfills me instead of just being tied to one hourly job for the rest of my life. And at this point, yeah, I was hopeful, but you bet that it hurt that I had felt really behind, you see, because you see it all the time in social media, people making, tens of thousands of dollars online or running these businesses and being super successful at a very young age. You see that so much in today's age. And yeah, I felt super behind still, but I felt like I was moving on the right track. The other thing I realized about feeling behind, guys, is the first thing you have to realize is, looking back on all this, I'm grateful for the suffering and pain I endured. I'm actually grateful for being lost all that time that I was, living it up while young and just excessively partying, and even grateful for the time that I spent doing jobs that weren't really aligned or fulfilled me in any way, because what it did was it caused an increasing level of pain to surface up in me that it was responsible for the drive that even made me curious about looking into other ways of living, right? And so in a way, everything happens for a reason. And if you're someone who feels behind in life right now and you're experiencing some of this pain that I'm talking about, this is the only reason you're watching a video like this, or you're maybe interested in other things, because it's the pain of that drives people to grow and change, right? There's no growth without suffering, right? It goes hand in hand. And so that's the first thing, is that everybody's path is going to look different. But if you're feeling behind, just know that yours may be different than what the norm is, right? And that can be a great thing. And, there's no telling what life is going to look like for you in 5-10 years from now, okay? The best thing is that you're just aware. The more aware that you're becoming of yourself is how you're going to be able to make the change that you want. But don't feel bad about time that you've wasted, because it's really not a waste. You wouldn't be where you are now, and you don't see the future that's going to hold from being in where you are now, even if it's amidst suffering. There's beauty to pain. And the other thing about feeling behind is, guys, if you're 20, if you're in your early 20s, like, you're basically 1 year old. Think about it. From ages 1 to 10, you're basically like you need your parents or guardians to function. Okay. And then from 10 to 20, you're literally told what to do, having to ask permission for everything, even to go to the bathroom, guys. And this goes for college as well, even in some cases. And even in college, people are usually there because they've had it pushed on them, right? And they haven't really had time to think for themselves. And so when you're in your early 20s, when you graduate school or come out of school, whether it's high school or college, you're basically on your own for the first time, right? You're basically finally forced to think for yourself, right? And a lot of people still are even just taking narratives, right? But you're basically 1 year old, okay? You have your whole life ahead of you. And you shouldn't like put pressure on yourself to have wished that you did things sooner, right? Like things just don't always work that way, and that's okay. And the way that life is going for you now is going to lead you to a point where you're going to be really happy with, and you're going to look back on these experiences with gratitude. So I wanted to share that a little bit as well, because that's what I've experienced after a lot of reflection, going through a lot of this pain. So once I realized that there are other possibilities to live, and I actually became passionate about something, I actually became passionate about entrepreneurship and that lifestyle, right? So I started to really obsess about this. I was trying every business model under the sun, like drop shipping, print on demand. I tried making my own hoodie brand. I tried selling like digital wall art and other like graphic design stuff I was making. I was selling beats. I did freelance copywriting. Like I was jumping from every single thing, trying to get to that next new shiny like business opportunity that was going to make me 10K a month. And I made some money in these things, guys. I made some money, like some of these things were working, but none of these things were taking me to the extent I needed to supplement my income and quit my job and move out of my parents' home, right? So I was starting to get a little discouraged. I was so desperate to just move out and be independent that I ended up settling to get another job that was in an office, and it was a couple states away. So it was a little bit far away from home. It was honestly like a little bit across the country. And I just wanted to experience branching out. And that was the only way that I knew how up to that point, right? Now, the job wasn't totally aligned, and I definitely didn't resonate with working in an office forever, right? But I used it as a stepping stone to kind of just be able to see what it felt like to get out. And that was beneficial for me for a period. But I experienced the same thing there, where I ended up quickly getting kind of sick of it. And I ended up quickly having the urge again to escape and do something else. And I didn't feel I was moving toward what I actually wanted to build in life, which was freedom. And I was still only making about 50K a year, which wasn't much at the time to really do much. And I still wanted to do entrepreneurship, and I was still trying things on the side to make it work. But I ended up learning so much in terms of the things that I was trying, and how I was just rushing things and being desperate, and how business is a long game. You really have to find something that you're committed to for the long term. You don't want to just build yourself into another 9 to 5, basically. And so I started to play the long game with business and kind of put it to the side and not rush it, right? This is when I started to build content and stuff that you see that I've built today slowly over time, right? And I reached this breakthrough at this point. And this is probably one of the biggest things that shifted my perspective and changed my life. That what I wanted wasn't just being an entrepreneur, right? It was about independence. It was about working toward a goal that was meaningful to me, right? Something that actually I could see how it was going to build me the future that I wanted, where I'm being able to travel and live on my own terms and do things of that nature, right? So I didn't give up on entrepreneurship as that vehicle, and I was starting to play the long game. What I did instead was I became an apprentice. I became an apprentice to entrepreneurship. And what I mean by that is I started to research on entrepreneurs and network with people, and I found out that there's actually something that all these entrepreneurs do that you can actually do remotely and have basically a substantial amount of freedom doing work that is actually in line with your entrepreneurship ventures, that can support you in building skills and a lot more money than I thought was even possible to make, while just being on my laptop and having a Wi-Fi connection and being able to still travel and do things and be independent, right? So that vehicle and that apprenticeship opportunity was sales, guys, remote sales. Now, I'm not talking about like going door to door or, any like in-person stuff. I'm talking about remote selling, okay? Where the world is moving is everything is basically going more and more remote. Everybody's more and more operating. Most businesses are operating remote in some aspects, and people need salespeople, right? And every entrepreneur is a salesperson at heart, right? Sales is literally what drives businesses to function and grow. Anybody who's built anything substantial at scale has learned the art of sales. And so I started to get passionate about this skill of sales and realizing how it was the key that was going to help me build skills and get paid to do that now, even if it's not my ultimate vision, but that would build me toward having that life. And fast forward to now, I'm literally in a place where I've built upon the skill of sales, which even just alone working in remote sales has made me countless of tens of thousands of dollars. It took me to making over double what I was making in a lot of these jobs I was working before in a very quick amount of time, in a fairly quick amount of time that I was very surprised by. And it was fun and meaningful because I saw how it contributed to my long-term vision, right? And it was the same thing again. I didn't have the awareness, right? So the biggest thing I'm trying to do in this video as well is, one, help you not feel behind, but also help you expand your awareness on what other possibilities are out there for you if you're someone who's ambitious in your 20s and wants to kind of go against the grain of the script. So sales was really that key, guys. I mean, whether it's like you can use sales in anything in life, whether it's getting clients for your business, whether it's starting your business and understanding how markets work and how humans work and how problems are solved and how to find them out in the market and how to communicate the value of what you have to offer. Like just being in a job that helped me learn sales on a daily basis built me into the person where I'm now able to do that. And I now have the financial runway to start moving more in the direction of business and have the clarity on it, right? And the skills give me more confidence to move and achieve things. And once I learned about that and the process to actually do it from anywhere, I pretty much immediately, it took me about 28 days to fully transition into a nice, comfortable remote position where I was doing the sales from my laptop. And I remember the first day that I woke up and I was literally like, I don't have to drive anywhere. I don't have to go anywhere. I could literally move somewhere if I wanted to. I could travel, right? So that was so exciting. And that was honestly a huge paradigm shift. But it gave me like the flexibility that I was always after, right? And it wasn't causing me to rush business, but it was still moving me toward that and snowballing me toward that. And the best part is it's nothing like an hourly job. You literally have so much more autonomy over your schedule. You literally are learning real skills, so you're engaged. And it's not just hourly. You do get comfortable hourly pay, but on top of that, where the real money is made is commission, where you actually get paid for the energy you put in, right? So it's a vehicle that you can use to your benefit, whether you want to make tons of money or whether you even just want to use it as a tool to support you while you build your business, right? And so this is how sales has helped me so much. And I'm finally living out closer to my dreams of building my business and being fully independent. And I wouldn't even have thought that I would have been able to come this far, just a couple years ago. Now, it took a lot of mistakes, a lot of learnings. I've invested in mentorships and I've made mistakes and have overpaid for things and have learned things in a little bit of a hard manner. And it took a lot of fear, trial and error, limiting beliefs to figure out this path that actually worked for me. And to understand this skill that I believe is the number one skill you can learn if you're someone who's in your 20s and you want to either make a lot of money or build toward a dream of entrepreneurship and have that remote flexibility now without having to rush something. So that skill is sales, guys, and it truthfully changed my life. And if I can figure out how to do that, you guys can too. Or better yet, you can just check out my step-by-step guide that I made. It's this video here. It'll show you exactly what I did to quit location-bound work and earn a high, flexible, remote income just with my laptop and a Wi-Fi connection so that you can start building real skills and get into something that is actually meaningful for you instead of having to continue to feel behind and struggle and rush things and not see results. So check that out. I hope to see you in another one. I'm out for now. Bye.